HBO made a very specific promise about this show. 100% faithful to the books. That's an exact quote. And in the first trailer alone, there are 9 things that break it. Some minor, some not. Let's go through them. No John Williams score. The most immediately obvious issue in the trailer isn't visual, it's audio. John Williams' score for the original film series is one of the most recognizable pieces of music in cinema history. Hedwig's theme in particular has become synonymous with the wizarding world itself, to the point where most people can't think about Harry Potter without hearing it. The HBO trailer doesn't use it. Instead, the music bed is a generic orchestral trailer track with no distinctive melody or identity. Now, there's a practical explanation for this. Williams' compositions are tied to the Warner Bros. Film rights, and HBO may not have the licensing access they'd need to use them. But regardless of the reason, the absence is felt immediately. The score was a core part of the emotional texture of those films, and replacing it with something anonymous, even temporarily, even just for a trailer, signals that this version of the wizarding world is going to sound fundamentally different. Whether a new composer can create something equally iconic remains to be seen. But for now, the gap is noticeable. Harry's eye color. This is one of the most documented details in the entire book series, and it still hasn't been corrected. Across all 7 Harry Potter novels, Harry's eye color is described as bright green on 20 separate occasions. 9 of those instances directly compare his eyes to those of his mother, Lily. The list of characters who make this observation include Hagrid, Dumbledore, Ollivander, Mrs. Weasley, Slughorn, who brings it up multiple times, and J.K. Rowling herself has stated that the connection between Harry's eyes and Lily's is one of the few details she considers genuinely important to the story. The original films failed on this point twice over. Daniel Radcliffe had a reaction to green contact lenses, so they were dropped. And then the production also failed to match his eye color to the actress playing Lily, which removed the emotional payoff entirely. The HBO trailer appears to be heading toward the same mistake. The new Harry's eyes read as blue, or at best blue-green depending on the lighting. It's still early enough that this could be corrected in post, or at least matched to Lily's coloring, but as the trailer stands, it's the same error being repeated, with no apparent awareness of the criticism that came before. Color-coded house robes. The iconic image of Hogwarts students in red and gold Gryffindor robes or green and silver Slytherin uniforms is a movie invention, not a book one. The official Hogwarts supply list in Philosopher's Stone specifies that first-year students are required to bring 3 sets of plain work robes in black. Nothing else. There are no house colors on the robes, no colored ties, no house-specific accessories on the uniform at all. The films added color coding for a very sensible reason. It helps audiences track which character belongs to which house at a glance. But it created a visual tradition that directly contradicts the source material. There's actually a scene in Chamber of Secrets that only makes sense if students aren't color-coded. When Harry and Ron use Polyjuice Potion to disguise themselves as Crabbe and Goyle, they ask a girl in the corridor for directions to the Slytherin common room without realizing she's a Ravenclaw. If everyone were walking around in obvious house colors, that confusion wouldn't be possible. The HBO trailer shows Harry and the Gryffindors in their signature red and gold palette. It's immediately recognizable. It's visually satisfying, and it is, by the book's own rules, wrong. Vernon Dursley's build. Vernon Dursley is described in specific and consistent physical terms across the books. He is large. He is beefy. He has a wide face that goes purple when he's angry. He has so little neck that his head appears to sit almost directly on his shoulders. His physical presence is part of his character design. He's meant to be overbearing, oppressive, and physically imposing in a way that makes Harry feel small and trapped. The books don't describe him as grotesquely obese in the way the original films depicted it, but they do describe him as a big, thick-set man with an outsized presence. The actor playing Vernon in the HBO series, Daniel Ings, is, by all appearances, a relatively average build. This production has tried to compensate with visual tricks. A tightly buttoned collar is used to recreate the no-neck look, and they've nailed the thick, old-fashioned mustache, which is a genuine book detail. But the overall physical presence isn't there. Vernon's size isn't just a deceptive detail. It's part of how Harry's domestic life feels claustrophobic and difficult. And a Vernon who looks like any other man in a suit loses some of that weight. Harry's scar placement. This one is minor in isolation, but it is the kind of detail that is genuinely easy to get right and has still been repeated from the original films. In the book, Harry's lightning bolt scar sits at the center of his forehead. In the trailer, it appears shifted slightly off-center, positioned to the side of his forehead rather than the middle. This is the same placement used in the original film series, which itself never quite matched the book's description. It doesn't affect anything narratively. It is, in every meaningful sense, a small cosmetic detail. But if a production is publicly committing to accuracy as a selling point, the placement of the most visually iconic element of the main character's appearance is a reasonable place to start. The scar isn't buried in the text. It's on the front of his face in nearly every scene. The Hagrid conversation moved to the train. In the books, one of the most significant scenes in Philosopher's Stone occurs at the hut on the rock. Hagrid arrives in a storm, hands Harry a birthday cake, reveals the truth about his identity, and then, in the same extended conversation, tells Harry about his parents. He explains that James and Lily were well regarded in the wizarding world, that they were head boy and head girl at Hogwarts, and then he walks Harry through the night Voldemort came to Godric's Hollow. All of this happens in one overwhelming sequence, while Harry is still effectively a prisoner in the Dursleys' world. It's structured that way deliberately. The revelation is meant to hit Harry all at once, changing everything in a single night. The trailer appears to show Hagrid having a conversation with Harry on the train to London, discussing Harry's parents. This suggests the production has broken that single revelatory scene into at least two separate moments, spreading the information across different settings and contexts. The emotional shape of the original is very specific. One night, one conversation, everything changes. Splitting it softens that impact. The Ollivander line from the film, not the books. In the trailer, Ollivander delivers the line, "I think we can expect great things from you." It's a good line. It lands well. It also comes directly from John Hurt's performance in the 2001 film adaptation and does not appear in the book in that form. The book's version of the Ollivander scene has a different rhythm and a different emotional register. Ollivander is more ambiguous, more unsettling, and the closing exchange is structured differently. Using the film's version of the line isn't a catastrophic error, and given how embedded it is in popular memory, changing it might genuinely feel wrong to audiences. But it does illustrate something worth noting. Even a production explicitly marketed as a return to the source material is, in at least some cases, treating the 2001 film as the authoritative text rather than the books themselves. The rowboats are gone. In the books, first-year students arrive at Hogwarts by crossing the Black Lake in small wooden boats, guided by Hagrid. It's a deliberately magical and slightly eerie sequence. A fleet of unmanned boats carrying a group of 11-year-olds across dark water towards a castle. The HBO trailer replaces this with Hagrid leading the first years through a forest on foot. It's a practical change. Filming a convincing fleet of boats on a lake at night is logistically complicated and expensive, but it does remove one of the more atmospherically distinctive moments in the entire first book. The boat crossing isn't just transport. It's the first real glimpse of Hogwarts from across the water, approached slowly, at night, in a way that makes the castle feel genuinely vast and ancient. Walking through a forest, while functional, doesn't produce the same effect. The color grading starts too dark. One of the most deliberate and effective visual choices in the original film series was the gradual shift in color palette across the 8 films. Philosopher's Stone is warm, golden, and almost amber-lit. Hogwarts feels like a safe and magical place, and the cinematography reflects that. As the series progresses through Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, and beyond, the color slowly drains out. By Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, the palette is cold, gray, and muted. This wasn't accidental. It tracked the story's emotional trajectory, a childhood that gets progressively darker as the stakes become more serious. The HBO trailer, which is covering Philosopher's Stone material, the very beginning of that arc, already looks noticeably cool and desaturated. The lighting is more muted than the 2001 film's equivalent scenes. If this is the starting point, there's very little visual runway left for the series to darken further as the story demands. A faithful adaptation of the tone would begin warm and safe, because the reader's experience of Philosopher's Stone is precisely that. The wizarding world is initially presented as a place of wonder, not dread. Starting in shadow before the shadow has been earned skips a step. And if you enjoyed picking apart what HBO got wrong in the trailer, you're going to want to stick around. Because next, we're looking at the Harry Potter facts that millions of people believe are true that are completely made up.